And these are just a few things that we routinely look for that make us some pretty big money. It's something I find quite often that many people will walk right by. Hey, it's Don. Today we're going to look at a couple of items that I purchased here. We're going through, we're trying to sort what we're going to list shortly, and we're pulling out some of the items that we've purchased. Now, this is a sheet music book of sorts. Now, the name you see down here, Charles Wakefield Cadman, is a very well-collected writer, author. He did some other things as well. This is his composition, and what this is an early take on Hollywood. Something unique, something different, anything from Hollywood from this time. This is from 1923. And what's interesting about this one, now I've seen this one before. I've sold it once before as well. Inside the book, it's mostly just sheet music, as you can see, but it's a fine quality book. Now, another reason this is fairly high collected and will sell for $50 plus is that there's one to a comedian. One of the songs, or compositions, I should say, is to a comedian. And it's actually addressing Charlie Chaplin himself. This is from the 20s. This is when he was at the peak of his prime. It shows his caricature on there. So this is tied to literally the earliest days you could imagine. It's got like a paper craft cover. It's got some silk string on the side. This is something you might run into on a bookshelf. Now, it's not just this one here. There's a ton of more expensive ones that were luxury at the time. I've even seen some of these that had Roycroft markings on them, made by Roycroft. Should be a name most people would be familiar with. It's Art Deco, it's early, it's pretty much looks like it's a limited production. The cover feels like silkscreen, and probably actually is. So this is a fairly scarce one. They didn't make a ton of these. This isn't one that was mass produced. It's something that you will find in a bookshelf. So something you need to look for. Anything like this, it's not usually going to turn up with sheet music. Most people don't relate this as sheet music, but it is sure heck is. It's 4 individual songs. Excellent item here, to say the least. Now, that came out of a bookshelf, as did this right here. This is an early book. Let's see if I've got it facing the right direction. Nope, it goes like this. Now, there's no writing on the spine or anything else like that, but it is dated, and it's an early book. Let me get to the actual page on here. And this is an 1850s copyrighted children's book. It has some nice artwork. It has a few engraved plates in it. Again, this is an original one. Now, these are like those $1.50 purchases that most people aren't going to assume carries much of a value because of what it looks like. Now, these cardboard covers were hand marbled. You can see that they were different. It doesn't appear to be a printed. It actually appears to be marbled. Not leather or anything else like that, but still, I do extremely well with these. I sell them in the Civil War section, a Civil War era book. I put the 1852 date on it. Bare bones bottom line, if I put this in the religious category under collectibles, I should get 15 to 20 bucks. Civil War, I may get 25 to say 34.50, even higher in some cases out of these books. Sometimes the author, the church it's from, can mean a huge difference in price. So any of these little beat up little books like this, I always check. The marble on the cover is something I always grab and at least check the dates on. Tons of these marbled cover books are vintage and early. It's what they did back then. You can also tell by the embossed actual binding on here. It has an embossed, like a diamond, almost like a fencing pattern to it. So it's early all the way around. Now, we also found some smaller items. Some of them were stuffed into some of the books we got. And I'm going to show you the type of items that will show up in a vintage book. If you don't look through the books while you're there, or at least when you get them home, you could be missing out on some very valuable items stuffed into books. Now, if you don't look in those books, as I said, you're going to miss stuff like this. This is actually a greeting card, probably from the 1800s. And this has a fairly nice quote on it. "All things blessed and all things fair, may thine onward journey share, and whatever the season be, love and sunshine dwell with thee." With love from Edna, it looks like. Now, this is a Victorian greetings card. It's die cut, it's embossed, it's airbrushed, and it has Dresden gilt on it. not a super valuable item, but 15, 20 bucks probably, considering it's in very nice condition. It is die cut. You can see the image through it, so it's an interesting piece. Now here's another interesting piece. This is an 1882 New Year's card, something someone would gave out as a greetings in New Year's. You can see the person's name on there. This is vintage. It's from 1882. Again, not super valuable, 15, 20 bucks maybe, 25 at best on a real good day. Now, other items that I have talked about in many videos recently are things from the World's Fair and expositions. And here's just a couple of tickets. I've probably had maybe 60 or 70 tickets from the Louisiana Purchase Exposition myself in probably just the last few years. There were millions of them pressed, millions and millions and millions of them. And these are workmen's weekly passes. If they worked there, they could get somebody in, I think a couple people from certain days of the week. They would get them while they worked there. The hopes, of course, just like they do these days, is that someone would spend some money. They were used during the dates. They have some stamping, some information on the back too, when they were used in the whole works. These are legit. Some tickets, as I've shown in the past, can sell for $1,000 or better. We sell baseball tickets, sports tickets. Expo tickets are extremely good sellers of any kind. The older the Expo, if you had them from the 1876 World's Fair, those would be worth even more than this. But these show up. They're still worth some pretty good money. I should at least get around 40 bucks or so, I would gather, for these. So something, again, that was stuffed in a book. You've got to look. We've found hundreds of dollars in books before. Comic books even, I found some excellent items in them too. So if something's bagged, I always open it up. If something's in a frame, I always remove it from the frame. You never know what else may be in that picture frame. Now here's another interesting item, and this is a ticket from the Union Pacific Denver and Gulf Railway. And this is from Denver, Colorado to Boulder in 1897. It's an interesting piece. It's a round-trip ticket as well. It's got the cancellation, so it's original. It's been used. Someone turned it in to take the transport on it. So tickets from the railroad, they weren't made to be kept. And for something like this to be in decent enough condition where you can see everything in it, the value is there. There's tickets, not maybe necessarily this specific one, but some tickets like this can sell for $400, $500, $600. There's 3 or 4 sites that just sell railroad collectibles. They'll have specialty auctions a couple times a year. At least once every other month or so, there's an auction that just sells railroad stuff, and this stuff can go much higher at those sorts of places than they would on eBay even as well, just because of the rarity, and they draw in very high-end, very die-hard collectors, and they'll fight over things when they go up for auction. Now, one of the most common thing we find in comic books and kids' books in general are these. These are actual chewing gum wrappers from that time, from the 20s or 30s era. These are original. They haven't been cut down. The wrappers were smaller because the gum was smaller back then. This is Adams chewing gum. I've had trade cards from the 1880s and 90s from this very same company. They were around for a very, very long time. Most of these, again, these are free. They were flattened in a book for me. I didn't have to do a single solitary thing to get these other than to check the books. If you're careful, sometimes you can tip the book with the outside edge pointing up and just fan the pages out onto a table and everything falls out that's in the book. You'll be surprised at some of the things you can find in a book. I've even found coins, jewelry pieces, rosary beads, crucifix stuffed into the spine. And in some cases, there's been money stuffed into the spine trying to hide it. So I always check out everything fully. Like I said with picture frames, if something is in a picture frame, I will always open it up. Always. I will never sell anything like that without removing it from the frame to make sure there isn't anything else in there. Another Adams. Now these wrappers like this, they're not super expensive. I should get $8 to $14, maybe high-end $17.50 on any one of these. Again, these are all original. This is Clark's Tea-Berry Chewing Gum. Sometimes the brand names will go for more, sometimes not. Now this is an original dentine, and the 5 cents right there should tell you. Even just looking at the ingredient line and what's in it and all that, that should tell you how old this is. This is a full-fledged complete wrapper on all these. This one might get me 15, 20 bucks or better. Again, these are free items. These are items that were in a book, just like the tickets, just like the greeting cards, the New Year's cards. We found hundreds of items inside of books, from estate sales, even auctions. And as I said, we found hundreds of dollars if you add it all up through the years. Now let me just show you a couple other items. Let me zoom in a little bit on this one here. Now this is a Martha Pullen stitchery tied in advertising piece. This is a pin. It's a pin back button. Martha Pullen did like books and stuff. I don't know if it's a line or a person, but I know the magazines with her name on it all sell for some pretty decent money. They came out in the late 80s. They were still out in the 90s, 2000s. They may even still be out now. Now, this is from 1990. Advertising piece, advertising a whole line of, and I think it was, what was it? So Beautiful is the line. You could have bought them at every single craft store in the country, or sewing store like a Joann's Fabric back in 1990 when this pin was a giveaway at the store. 20, 25 bucks very easily. All these pins, any pin that looks similar to this, I don't care what's on it, animals, buildings, whatever, I always take a good look at them. Usually these are a quarter, like this one here was a quarter. I've got a couple other pins too I may show you in another video, but this should get me at least, as I said, 20, 25 bucks probably on something like this. They don't show up very often. My mom sewed, so I know the name. I instantly knew it. She probably still has, my mom, stuff at the house from sewing. She sewed shirts. She even made us clothing when I was a kid in the 70s. Psychedelic looking stuff, even with embroidered mushrooms and stuff. Really kind of out there stuff. But anyway, this is a pretty cool item also. And another item here, Walt Disney Productions. Look up when that term was used. Disney changed the terminology, what their copyright says. In the early days, it said Walt Disney Enterprises. So if you know how it's written, you can date almost any of the items that have this in it within a certain time range. At least you would know if it's old or not. This is a vintage one. Without a doubt, you can check it out yourself, which I always recommend doing. This is a trivet. It's cast iron and actual ceramics. I don't think there's any scenic with a scene like a kitchen scene like Chef Mickey and Minnie here that doesn't sell for at least 25 to 50 bucks. Some of these trivets I've seen sell over $100 each, without the box, without anything else. And again, you can check it out. It has a maker's mark on the back. It is authentic, made in Japan, so it's not a super, super new item, as I said. Check out the copyright stuff on Disney. It will be very helpful to you to know what to look for as to what is old and new. Now, this is in immaculate condition. There's many different ones. This is the most common one, I would say. We've probably had 2 others, maybe 3 others of this same one. Now, there was a whole kitchen set of these. There's salt and pepper shakers. There's a butter dish. There's a spoon rest. All of those are scarce. This is probably more common than those. So if you run into any others with the Chef Mickey pattern on them that are spoon rests or anything along that line, they're probably worth more than this. 40 bucks, 50 bucks maybe even, maybe 75, depending on how scarce and how many people are looking for it at any given day. Now, what's good about these, you can hang them up by this right here and mount them on the wall. You don't have to use it. So it's a kitchen decoration, wall art, as well as a usable trivet. If you don't know what a trivet is, it's made to hold a hot item. So you could put like a hot pan or something on this and set it on the top. Now, most people wouldn't do that because you risk ruining the design. So basically, it's something just to sit there and look nice on the wall. Disney makes stuff for the entire kitchen. There's flour sifters, measuring cups, measure sets, and the whole works. So it's something I would always recommend looking for. Well, there we have it. Hopefully that gave you some ideas, some thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button down below. You can also hit the bell icon to be notified if I post new content or go live. Subscribe and tell all your friends.
Tootsie Roll, I think I'm in love with you. Whatever it is, I think I see.